And finally, we're here. The last league stage game of IPL 2020. Mumbai Indians are sure of a top spot. They're sure of a place in the first qualifier in a couple of days' time, where they await the Delhi Capitals. The Sunrisers Hyderabad have the simplest of equations. If they win, they go through. If they lose, Kolkata Knight Riders go through to the eliminator. That's how it all stands after all but two teams have played their quota of 14 games. And you now have a contest between Hyderabad and Kolkata. The net run rate's been good for David Warner's side. They've also been given a little added boost by the fact that they've won the toss in Sharjah, where they did beat the Royal Challengers last year, and they're going to have a bowl first. They're also excited, and KKR fans won't like this, that Mumbai are not going full strength. So there's so much to talk about on Whirlpool presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell. Deep Dasgupta is here. Ajit Agarkar is here. They've wrapped up things in the league phase in Abu Dhabi. They're chilling, and they're joining me now for this massive game. So let's get first thoughts from them. Ajit, nice toss to win when you know you need to win and qualify. It's working for the Sunrisers.
Yeah, I mean, again, the ground as well makes a huge difference. A lot of teams have decided to chase. The dew is playing its part, so could be an important toss to win. They'll still have to play well. They're playing the best side in this competition, and in spite of the changes, Mumbai is still a formidable team, and that's because they have so many options in their squad. So they'll still have to play well, Sunrisers, because there's no chance that they can lose and go through on net run rate. They have to win. But it's probably a good start at least.
Yeah, as far as changes go, the one headlining change actually should be the return of Rohit Sharma. All this, government secrets level secrecy on his injury news. And finally, we know that the Mumbai Indians captain is back and fit, assumed fit to play match fit. And here he is at the top of the order with Quinton de Kock. He comes in for Jayant Yadavdeep. Out goes Jasprit Bumrah and Trent Bolt. They want to give the bowlers a rest. Still no Hardik Pandya. And they've brought in James Pattinson and Dhaval Kulkarni for his first appearance of the season. Thoughts?
Well, obviously, I mean, they needed that break. They've been playing for the last 13 games, Bolt and Bumrah. Well, yeah, obviously, that's not their best playing 11. We are all aware of that. And also the fact that they'll be defending. So that'll make it that much more interesting with Dhaval coming in, playing his first game. Obviously, Pattinson's played a few, and good to see Rohit back on the field again. Yeah, there was this whole thing about his hamstring, fit, not fit, and all. But I think, it's good to see him back on the field.
Just a couple of things to add to that. A good time to rest them as well. They play in a day's time. Their game against Delhi Capitals as well. I'm not a big fan of resting people coming closer to the playoffs, but just a day rest, and you don't want to lose two of your key performers. I think batting they can cover up or other parts of the game, but Bumrah and Bolt are almost irreplaceable. You can't replace.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what they are. And if you look at that team, if I actually take the Mumbai team away from that, and if you take away who they've come in for, that doesn't look like a bad team. If you put those 11 players, even if you have Pattinson and Kulkarni, Rohit Sharma obviously comes back, still a pretty strong team, isn't it, Ajit? Especially with Dhaval Kulkarni, who's quite a seasoned seamer in the IPL too.
Yeah, I mean, you can't compare it to a Bumrah and Bolt, and the kind of form that they've been in and the impact that they've had on the season. But yeah, you got experience coming in. It's not you're not getting less. Well, obviously, the quality will be a bit different, but you still got experience of not just having played cricket, but played in the IPL. So first go, always tough when you've been sitting on the sideline, but it's an exciting time. If he does well, gives Mumbai Indians an option going forward if need be. So that's been the good thing about them. It's what is sitting on your bench that sometimes dictates how your team does, and Mumbai Indians have a lot of strength on it.
Before we just move to the Sunrisers team, Rohit back now. Saurav Ganguly's coach came a little earlier today saying if Rohit is fit, he's going to play. He's going to go to Australia. Is that now something we can assume, Deep, that if he's fit enough to play for the Mumbai Indians, that he would be fit enough to make the Australia tour?
Yes. Definitely yes. But the other important thing is hamstring injuries, as Ajit will tell you, can be tricky. You don't want to rush back into a game again because that can turn into a little more serious affair. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how's that hamstring again of his. Is he running all right? How is he holding up after a couple of games? Recovery time from one game to the other, as Ajit mentioned, they're just playing day after, right? The first playoff game qualifier is day after. So Yeah, I think you got to keep an eye out for him in terms of recovery and everything else. How is he coping up with the injury, post injury actually?
Yeah, we're going to see that in a little while from now. He's going to presumably come and open the batting in just under 20 minutes time. But Ajit, if he is playing, top flight cricket in the IPL, then you'd assume that he's ready to go for Australia, or can we not make that assumption just yet?
It's almost like a fitness test, isn't it? The next few games for him, they'll probably find out. It's very tricky. I mean, for all the secrecy that was around it, hamstring injuries are quite tricky. I mean, once you're in it, you might have done everything in practice that's possibly needed, but once it comes to game situations, your body reacts in a different way. There's a lot more stress on the body. So hopefully he can get through that, and if he does, there's no reason why he shouldn't be on it. I think Saurav said it himself that if he is fit, he'll certainly be on that plane to Australia. So fingers crossed for Rohit Sharma. It's really good news, because from what we've been hearing, it was quite close that he'll make this IPL. So that's very good recovery.
Yeah, good on Rohit Sharma back in the side, and he is going to lead a slightly changed Mumbai Indians. One change for the Sunrisers Hyderabad too. You think that they made a couple of changes for that Bangalore game, and they might have stuck with it deep, but they brought back Priyam Gar for Abhishek Sharma, who didn't have much to do in that last game. Can you make sense of that swap?
Maybe that's an insurance, to be honest. I mean, firstly, a big toss to win. I mean, at Sharjah, we've seen pitches playing very differently of late, right? So it's very difficult to assess what the pass score would be, because there's been 180, 190, and there's also been 160 games there. So I think chasing is a great idea with all the dew and smallish ground and the pitch assessment. So I think winning the toss was very, very crucial. And secondly, Priyam Gar, I just have a feeling, because he can bat in the top order as well. So going by the total that they're chasing, they might want to move around with their batting if they really want to. I mean, I think Priyam Gar gives them that option.
Have they gone for the better batsman in some ways, Ajit, looking at potentially facing a strong bowling lineup?
Yeah, I think that's probably the reason, isn't it? Between the two, they feel he's the better batsman. I mean, he's got a couple of innings this IPL as well. Abhishek Sharma, a little bit unfortunate. I quite like him. Offers you something with the ball as well. But it's one of those things. Sometimes the team just prefers a certain player, and that's what they've gone for. Otherwise, looks quite a settled unit, and they've been playing well. I mean, their net run rate, one of the few teams that's been in the positive all throughout, tells you whenever they've got the results, they've been good results.
Is it a significant advantage, Deep, that they played these last two games back-to-back at Sharjah, where you're looking at the condition and the nature of that surface changing, and Sunrisers having perhaps a better idea now, having just played there on Bangalore?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. Because, again, because this pitches off late last couple of weeks, they've played differently. Especially, I'm talking about Sharjah and Dubai pitches here. So it's very important to figure out exactly what kind of pitch you're playing on. So having played their last game here, they have a fair idea. And also, I think if it is on the slower side, that pitch, that actually helps SRH. I mean, a 160 game helps SRH more than Mumbai Indians. Obviously, a good pitch, a 170, 80 pitch, or a pace-friendly pitch helps Mumbai Indians. But if it's on the slower side, which we've seen of late in Sharjah, might help SRH.
Yeah, the kind of bowlers that they do have, it seems like this is the ideal sort of surface for them. If you give them a choice for what pitches they want to play their last two games on, Ajit, they probably pick something like this.
Yeah, think so. I mean, it suits their style of cricket. Mumbai Indians obviously a lot more depth, and I know they've made changes, but with their pace attack, it's a little bit different. So, yeah, if there is something in the surface, it will suit them. And from what we hear, we've not been to Sharjah, me or Deep, but there seems to be a lot more dew in Sharjah than Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So, again, if they can bowl well up front, and if there is some sort of help in the pitch for their bowlers, then when the dew comes in, might actually work in their favor when they bat second. So, it seems like a really good toss to win, provided they play well.
I know Rohit Sharma's back, and so you assume he's going to open with the Quinton de Kock. But I was really warming up to that Ishan Kishan Quinton de Kock pairing. They were great fun to watch at the top of the order. Obviously, Ishan Kishan would drop down now, but that's a key now contest up front. Sandeep Sharma has a very good record against Rohit Sharma. He tends to pick these high-profile Indian players deep as his bunnies. So he's got Rohit, he's got Kohli. I'm just thinking now with this sort of surface and the fact that Rohit's come back, he might just be a little more watchful initially than he otherwise would. Would that play into Mumbai's hands to some way, that you won't see a Rohit Sharma going all out like he was in the reverse fixture? that this could be the ideal batting lineup to assess whether they can get to 160, 170.
Yeah, and listen, anyways, Rohit is one player who does not really go, gung ho from ball one. So, anyways, he will take his time, and it's very important because again, you're not generally not looking at a 180 anymore, 180, 190 anymore. And even if you are, you have enough firepower down the order. So, yeah, makes sense. Taking time, which I'm sure he will. And you know what, Sandeep Sharma, for someone like Rohit, I can very, very well understand, bowling at 120, swinging a little bit can as a batsman can get very, very irritating, because the ball never comes to you. And someone like Rohit likes the ball coming on to you, pace on the bat is something that he likes. So, yeah, I can understand why, someone like Sandeep Sharma has good numbers against Rohit.
We discussed this last game, didn't we, Ajit? What makes Sandeep Sharma click? And we did observe somewhere, perhaps, that batsmen tend to either underestimate him or take him a little easy.
And you don't blame them. I mean, but he's smart enough. We spoke about him at great length. Sticks to his limitations, and you understand batsmen trying to put pressure on him by trying to attack him, but he doesn't give too many freebies, which is what you can do when you have limited resources that he does. So if you're not going to get freebies, then you're taking a risk trying to hit shots against him, and that's when he's very good. And if there is some sort of swing on offer, he does get that early on, at least in the first over, a couple of overs that he bowls. So yeah, just it's a great example of how you can maximize what you've got, and that's exactly what he does with his bowling here.
And the other thing is, from the other end, you have somebody who's bowling at, let's say, 135, 140-ish. And suddenly from 140, from one end, you go down to 118, 120. And again, he's not a straight bowler. He generally does get some kind of swing initially. So can be a handful. And like Ajit mentioned, he's very, very good with his line and length. And you know what? If by any chance the keeper comes up and stands next to the wicket, it just makes life that much more difficult for the batsman. Then you can't even stand outside the crease.
I'm glad you brought that up, Deep, because I saw that last game with Kohli's wicket, and it seemed like the keeper coming up may have in some way contributed to that. Maybe you can take this point further on just whether that also plays a role in getting the best out of Sandeep Sharma. The fact that you can do these things to irritate batsmen or annoy batsmen, put them out of their comfort zone.
So when the keeper comes up, a couple of things happen. Obviously, as a batsman, you want that pace. So you're standing outside the crease, which you can't anymore with the keeper standing up. The other important thing for someone like him, he gets a target, right? Keeper standing up. If he's trying an in swinger, so he can line his line and length up, looking at the wicket keeper. Could be aiming at left foot or his gloves or something. So that's the other advantage that a bowler like him would have, having the keeper up to the stump. So yeah, I'm telling you, it can be very, very irritating. So as a batsman also, you're very conscious of not leaving your crease, and then you're forced to kind of wait for the ball to come to you. And generally as openers, you like the ball coming on to you. You like that pace, you want to play around with that pace, but he offers you nothing.
I do remember over the years of doing shows with you, Ajit, that you sometimes consider that a fast bowler gets put off when the keeper tends to come up and stand. I know you wouldn't maybe put Sandeep Sharma in that 140 category, but he doesn't seem to be one of those that gets affected if the keeper stands up or back.
No, I mean, it is sometimes an individual thing, but you kind of swallow your pride at times and you get on with it and do what the team requires, because that is a ploy. Like Deep said, you keep the batsmen in their crease, suddenly changes the footwork, you create more chances with that. They perhaps play a shot that's not there to be played. So those sorts of things. So at times you just swallow your pride, but it's also a comfort thing. I mean, I not that the keeper had ever stood up to me, but if he had, I don't think I would have been comfortable, because it's one of those things that if a bowler is not comfortable, can actually put you off your own game, actually, more than worrying about what you need to bowl to the batsman.
You'd also assume that if a keeper comes up, then the short ball goes out. But with Sandeep Sharma, you think that's not part of the repertoire anyway, isn't it, Deep?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you have bowlers like Krunal are bowling almost that pace, 107, 108. Had Varun Chakravarti the other day bowl at 107. Yeah, so so I mean, listen, I think that also helps, as Ajit mentioned. You won't stand up to even somebody who's 130 plus, forget 140. But someone like Sandeep, I think that's part of his game plan. The keeper standing up. This adds to his deceptiveness, or his gives that extra edge to him. So I'm sure someone like him is more used to having the keeper up, and I'm sure it's part of his ploy as well.
It's been a curious season in some ways, Ajit, that Rohit Sharma now comes back into this, and he had a couple of 50s. But just observing Virat Kohli last night, even he's got the runs, but looks like two of India's best batsmen haven't quite been in the best flow. Rohit's had the injury to make that more complicated. Can you put a finger to it? Players like Rohit and Kohli not quite bossing the IPL the way we know they can?
Not sure, actually. I mean, look, a lot of the batsmen have had it. It's been a challenge, especially with the new ball up front. There has been something in the pitches for the quicker bowlers. It could be one of those reasons. No real cricket over the 6 months leading up to this. And that can affect different people in different ways. Rohit still played a couple of really cracking innings, at least in Abu Dhabi, that I can clearly remember, on a toughish wicket. So. Sometimes to get into the rhythm, and T20 can be even harder because you don't really get time to get back into form in case you have a couple of bad innings. But that's been the strength of Mumbai Indians. There's so many guys who, if somebody else has a bad day, they generally step up. That it doesn't usually show on the team. But you're right. I mean, we've been used to seeing Rohit and Virat both in better rhythm batting wise. In the IPLs before, and perhaps they're still searching for that best rhythm that we've seen them before.
No better time than just before the playoffs for Mumbai, Deep, for Rohit Sharma to find his best form.
Yeah, and if you look at Rohit, I think he's batted all right. It's just that if you look at his dismissal, especially against the spinners in the power play, quite a few times he's gone out trying to take the spinner on, trying to go over mid-off, or playing that slog sweep. He's got out a few times, if I could remember correctly, trying to play that slog sweep and holding it out to deep mid wicket or long on. I mean, it's also maybe at times he's going too hard against the spinners too early. Maybe he'll kind of fine tune his game plan a bit. And also, I mean, listen, I think as Ajit mentioned, this break for a couple of games or a few games away from, again, match and everything else must have given him some time to kind of rethink or fine tune what he wants to do or how he wants to go about. The other thing, big players, I think Ajit and I, we've discussed this off air, is also maybe lack of crowd, because some of these big players, because they're used to it. It's not, somebody who's only got used to it playing international cricket for a couple of years or something. They've been around for a while. They're so used to crowd and everything else. I don't know. I mean, again, it may have an effect, may or may not. But yeah, we can't, I mean, at least I won't, disregard that aspect either.
All right. Do you buy into that theory, Ajit? In some ways, big stage players, they like a full audience, they like the buzz, they feed off the energy. You can probably think of that for someone like Virat Kohli.
Probably the case. I mean, he'd be the better person to answer it. But I'm sure it's affected different people in different ways. And we've been thinking about it, me and Deep, just talking about it. It'll be interesting to know, actually, if someone asks them the question, whether that has actually affected on how their tournament's gone or how their approach has been. Maybe, and there's no doubt when the crowds are in, there is that extra energy. A lot of times when you're playing at home, it's almost like a 12th man, and a lot of the big players do thrive off it. It's because the crowd gets behind him. There's a lot more pressure on the opposition, and they do thrive off it. Whether that's really affected them, they'll probably be the better people to answer that. But I won't be surprised if it has.
All things being equal, we thought Mumbai Indians would be firm favourites going into this, Deep. But just as a result of the toss, as a result of the changes, Mumbai made our Sunrisers favourites now?
I wouldn't say favourites, but obviously it has negated MI's advantage to a certain extent. I mean, that is what it has happened. I mean, I still won't go that far and say SRH are the favourites, but yes, I mean, it's balanced things out to a great extent.
Ajit?
Not at all. I think Mumbai Indians will still be favourites. I think the only thing is Bumrah and Bolt not playing. It's those are big holes to fill. Especially, Pattinson's played quite a bit of cricket this tournament. Or Coulter-Nile has played a few games, but Dhawal Kulkarni hasn't at all, and it's not the easiest pitch to bowl on this one. So if it is a flat Sharjah pitch, so that's the only thing that's, I think, in Sunrisers' advantage. Otherwise, Mumbai Indians still the better team on paper. The toss gives them an advantage. If there is due, it's certainly a big advantage.
Now,
and also,
yes,
sorry, they have their sixth bowler is Pollard, who's done well, but mind you, he's done well on surfaces which are sluggish and also grounds which have 70-meter longish boundaries. So Sharjah, the smaller ground, that the sixth bowling option is Pollard. So yeah, I mean, and as Ajit mentioned, Dhawal's first game, Rahul Chahar, if one of them go for a few, then so that can be tricky again with due and everything else and defending. That can be the other thing which might play into SRH's hand.
Yeah, let's see if they do take on Mumbai's bowlers. It is a conversation for the second half, but you think of all the bases that Mumbai have covered, and you could predict their 11 if everyone's fit for that qualifier, Ajit. Perhaps the only one which may be a bit of an internal contest today would be Pattinson versus Coulter-Nile, and they both play today.
Yeah, but Pattinson for me, really. I mean, I think Coulter-Nile, one of the things, I feel they got Coulter-Nile in because there's one of those games against DC earlier on where they lost, 5 wickets, and then Krunal and Pollard had to sort of bat a bit cautiously to get the runs at the end, and they thought maybe we need a bit more batting depth, and Coulter-Nile provides that. But as far as bowling is concerned, in my opinion, I mean, Pattinson, far better bowler, better suited, and has done better as well. I don't think they'll be in too much doubt, especially if Rohit's fit. The batting becomes even stronger. So if that is the case, I don't think they'll think going into the playoff unless Coulter-Nile has a great game and it just looks in better form, which I don't think. That's the good part about good teams. I mean, we've seen Chennai in the past or Mumbai. They don't really mess around too much with their playing 11s unless the conditions demand it or there's an injury around.
Yeah, it's interesting that Ajit backs a Pattinson. Tom Moody has said on our show previously, Deep, that he'd go for Coulter-Nile, who he thinks is the more all-round T20 bowler. Who would you go for?
Pattinson. Pattinson's what he's done so far as compared to Nathan Coulter-Nile. He's also played a few games, but I think Pattinson's look more threatening, a better wicket-taking option as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, Pattinson for me. And and also, if I may quickly add, is they've got this thing going, a rhythm as a unit, as a bowling unit. Pattinson bowled, Bumrah, they know where to bowl, who is bowling what overs. So I think that there's also this camaraderie that you can see on the field as well, and they've got this rhythm going as a unit, which you would want to carry on.
All right. Well, players already out there. Let's see if Rohit can see out Sandeep Sharma and then take out the rest. Thank you very much to Deep Das Gupta and Ajit Agarkar. More from them at halftime. And what is a big 20 overs to the Sunrisers Hyderabad. The Kolkata Knight Riders are going to keep a very keen eye on how much Mumbai get. And we'll pick up the conversation on Whirlpool Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout powered by Dell.